A habit of thinking positively. In the future, we may think that we will be unhappy to fail, or vice versa. We may think that we will be happy to succeed. The ancient philosopher Aurelius said that human life is made by the person's thoughts. As we said, the world we live in is not determined by external conditions or environments, but habitually by our minds. It is determined by the idea of possession. Thoughts have real dynamic forces. Therefore, a psychologist said that human character or destiny tends to be habitually thought of. Anyone who has experienced this real power will acknowledge it. We can make ourselves happy or unhappy depending on our thoughts and thoughts. When we think about one direction in our lives, it remains in its state. Also, if you think about something positively, the power to actively bring results is bent. If you think positively, the environment necessary to bring active results is being created. On the contrary, if you think passively, an environment with passive results is created around us. Therefore, in order to create an environment, we must first change our mindset. We must banish the environment that has only water from our minds. If we do our best while being sure of the results, the mental video will create more active thinking skills and make our wishes come true. It will actually be created. This is the law. Simply expressing this law brings positive results if we think from a dramatic standpoint. If you put this more simply, you will believe it. Let's put the idea of success in your mind. First of all, don't think of a defeat. That puts the idea of success in your mind with the right idea. If you have a passive and negative thought, you have to defeat it with positive and dietary thinking. The video of the heart that we created and kept deeply in the ceremony of Zhengjia, do we keep it constantly? If you check it and work it effectively, it will definitely be half and half realized. A good habit of setting goals clearly. There are a lot of people traveling abroad during this vacation. Make sure you do it. The goal is to make your people wish. To threes. Set goals that come from your will. Each person sets a schedule at his or her own pace. The question is whether it is one's own will. Just one every day is fine. It means to think clearly whether it comes from your will. This is because it induces active behavior in itself. Also, even if it is not achieved in reality, it becomes a habit because it becomes ingrained in this body that acts and becomes a habit. Whatever the goal, humans feel happy only in the process of working toward that goal. 9. The habit of not falling into mannerism. Nothing in the world would be more unbearable than boring. There are many people who unexpectedly do things because they feel insignificant about living without something stimulating their vitality. If our brains continue to do one thing, they will master it. That's how much efficiency goes up. However, mindset and behavior tend to fall. This means that the actions you have done so far will soon become proficient and indolent. In other words, it is easy to fall into mannerism. And I get tired of it. If that happens, it will lead to the boring and unbearable state mentioned earlier. This makes it difficult to be motivated to try something new. How not to fall into mannerism. First of all, It is good to change the environment when you start a new heel. Anything that can be refreshed is fine. The more passive people are, the less good they are at this transition, because it is easy to abandon their minds. In order not to happen, the beginning is very important. In order to start effectively, it is a way to do what you can do with confidence. If you do something you are confident about, you will have motivation and confidence. Motivation and confidence become the driving force behind the next job. In short, anything that can see the confidence of motivation science is good. This is because the main goal is to start anew based on small success. The habit of visualizing one's wishes. Ideas that do not carry out are called daydreaming or delusion. If you continue to live in these fantasies and delusions and do not realize them, you will be unexpectedly disappointed in your life. Therefore, by checking one's thoughts and lives from time to time, execution and imagination must be distinguished from. There are many people who are so absorbed in vague daydreaming that they cannot act at all, and most people have this phenomenon even little by little, even temporarily. Not many people know specifically what their true wishes are. I think that whatever I do, I can eat well and live well. It's not clear what these people are living their lives for. It is for this reason that not many people in the world succeed, even though they seem to live their own hard lives. If so, other than trying hard vaguely, something will have to be done. That's what matters. It is the habit of seeing everything positively, which is the goal of life. Setting a firm goal, and then having it is of paramount importance. Do it what you really want to get in your life, and then put yourself achieving your goals on the screen of your mind. I draw on the screen of my mind. I read an article about a scholar who won the Nobel Prize in Physics. The theme of the conversation was achieving goals. The main thing about the conversation is the Japanese and American way of thinking. For example, how you independently become the president of a company, or how you operate. It was about the difference. Long-term goals, such as excelling and being promoted to high-speed positions, and according to the scholar, the goal is 80% for Americans. It is very good to achieve. The goal of the deceased is to be clearly visualized and clearly engraved in the subconscious. While doing this, they express satisfaction and say, okay, and 20% of them put what they made into practice. This is said to be okay if it matters more than anything. You shouldn't end up with a simple daydream. He dreams of Dogong. But the case of Japanese is very different from that of Americans. If you don't try specific actions to root out, it's just that even if 80% of nothing is achieved in the end, about 60% is half. There is room for success. It is said that without achieving 100%, the Japanese sometimes falter their will, or they forget it before they know it. Note down the exact goal with, and put it in a prominent place, or a pocket bag, so that you can see it several times a day. The Japanese are not satisfied with the reprimand for not implementing it well because of its strong perfectionism. It advocates perfectionism to the extent that it always checks whether or not it is attempting to act toward a goal in this way. This perfectionism is the good thing today. That's an important point for putting your wish into practice. The first scholar says he may have created a prosperous powerhouse. A negative way of thinking, that only focusing on negative parts, is not a positive way of thinking. If you only worry about the unresolved minus, it is difficult to have a way of developing a habit of dreaming of success until any time. However, the scholar says it is not difficult to turn to the negative part. Failure is that it is a Kordai method and an American way of thinking, to be cool as a failure and to turn to a well-achieved part. Overall, even if it is a failure, the eye is important to the plus side in it. Even if 50% failed, the remaining 50% were going well. What do we need to do right now to build high confidence? Think rustically, this scholar says. Turning a blind eye to 50% of the positive side, over 50% of the meaningless negative side, the following list overcomes the wrong attitude. It can be said that it is an important way of thinking in order to have faith. These are 7 items that can be practiced. Many people have succeeded using this method. This way we will gain confidence in our abilities and feel new power. First, let's picture our success in our minds, and let's keep it deep so that it doesn't come off. Let's keep the impression patiently. Never let it blur. You must never think of failure. We should never doubt the feasibility of a painting in our minds. Suspecting is the most dangerous thing, because the mind always tends to complete as it is drawn. No matter how difficult things seem to happen, you must dream of only success. Second, if you have negative thoughts about our own abilities, shout out your active thoughts to give them a hug. Enemy words are the most powerful cure for inferiority in the world. Think of it as trivial. Ignore it. The trouble is that it should not be a maverick of good, but it is important to raise your self-esteem soundly. We should not build obstacles in our imagination. Seventh, rate yourself 10% higher than your actual ability. You just have to try to remove the self-standard. What is more important than that is you who are in trouble. They say you shouldn't think about it with anxiety. Fourth, you should not imitate him by being surrounded by the dignity of others. No man can be himself just as he cannot be. Even though they seem confident on the outside, most of them are doing it like us, and they are also doubting their power. Fifth, let's have a competent advisor who will understand and be supportive of what we do. Our inferiority complex and our distrust of ourselves are often from childhood. Knowing oneself is the first thing to do to escape from inferiority. Sixth, repeat the following verse 10 times every day. I have faith. I can do everything with my faith. M.A. Part 3. Good habits that make creative thinking 063.